Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey, welcome to the program. Welcome to Monday, but a bearable Monday because we beat the Patriots. Yeah, that always helps, right? Not that we care about football anymore, certainly not. What else? I heard that if we get 2 more inches of rain before the end of the year, 2 more and a few drops, we will officially have the wettest year in Pittsburgh history in the books. Just saying. So I don't know about you, but I'm rooting for another 2.5 inches because 2018 has been such a memorable year in so many ways, and why not have it be the wettest as well? It could be that Pittsburgh will turn into a swamp eventually. Maybe that's where climate change is taking us. Actually, I bumped into a tweet this morning that this is one of the reasons I love Twitter. You encounter things, sometimes facts, that give you just little tidbits of information that you didn't know about and really don't care about, but somehow you find vaguely fascinating. And this was one. And when I was thinking about Pittsburgh turning into a swamp, it occurred to me that, first of all, if you do crossword puzzles, which I do, you know that there are many words for like swamp. One which I didn't know before I did crossword puzzles is fen, F-E-N. The others, here's another 3-letter one, bog, right? A bog, a fen, a swamp, a wetland, a marsh. What's the difference? So on Twitter today, a woman with the strange name of Gloria Bringe, for some reason, posted this. Gonna learn you a thing, because knowledge, in all caps. And then she proceeds in a very terse way to define those terms and to tell me that crossword puzzles notwithstanding, a fen is not a bog, nor a bog a swamp. Think of all the ways those words are used. You bog down, right? You're swamped with work. Trying to think of any others. I don't know any for fen, but there probably are. But here is how she defines these things. And I guess we would turn in, I don't know if we'd be a bog, a fen, or a swamp. Or for that matter, a marsh. But here we go. They are all wetlands, right? And a bog is a wetland that is acidic. Who knew? Has to do with pH. A bog is a wetland that's acidic. A fen is a wetland that's alkaline. A swamp, who knows if it's acidic or alkaline, but it is a wetland that has vegetation consisting of woody plants, trees, and other woody plants. That'd be a swamp. So that'd be like the Everglades, right? I don't know. And a marsh is a wetland with, I guess it's a grab bag. It's other forms of vegetation, but not woody plants. You know, so they're not all, it's not the same. A bog is not a fen. A fen is not a bog. A fen is not a swamp, and a bog is not a marsh. And now that I've just said all that, I dare you to try to tell me what the difference between a fen, a bog, a marsh, and a swamp is. Although, one interesting thing, sometimes when they find, almost a perfectly preserved body, maybe of somebody, from thousands of years ago, they are found in bogs, right? Bogs preserve bodies because they're acidic. It's like they pickle them. Seriously, it's like a bog. You can pickle something in a bog. And so that's why when they find, old, formerly living things often, and haul them out for to our astonishment and fascination, they come almost invariably from bogs, or they've been preserved in ice. Correct? Right? Bogs and ice. So that's just the first little bit of knowledge I thought you might want to know about or not. Let's get off on the right foot today and start with the obituary of the day. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Charlie Parkhurst. I don't know. I didn't know him either. Charlie Parkhurst, he's been dead for some time. Now, they didn't find him in a bog, but if they did, he'd look pretty much like he did in living, which was a swashbuckling, one-eyed stagecoach driver. Okay? That's Charlie Parkhurst. He's been gone for over 100 years, but I've come upon his obit, and I'm going to share it with you. Charlie Parkhurst was a legend in his time, a legendary stagecoach driver. The big stagecoaches, the 6-horse stagecoaches. Can you imagine handling 6 horses and, this thing on these rocky, muddy, rickety, what passes for roads in the West. But Charlie Parkhurst was known as the best whip in California during the gold rush. So that Wells Fargo, before it became a bank that steals from people, Wells Fargo had, the stagecoaches and would take the gold from the mining camps and get it to the cities, to San Francisco or whatever. And obviously those stagecoaches were ripe for desperados, not to mention some pissed off Indians. I use the word Indian because I don't think, I'm just being historical because that's what they were called then. Rattlesnakes, washouts, all kind of stuff. But Charlie Parkhurst was just known as, if you want it delivered, Charlie is the only way you're going to be assured of it. He was described as short and stocky, a whiskey drinker, cigar smoker, tobacco chewer. A horse, once startled by a rattlesnake, kicked Charlie in the eye, and that was the end of that eye. So Charlie also looked like a swashbuckler because he had, an eye patch over one eye. And Charlie died alone in a cabin in Watsonville, California, age of 67. And it was only then when a doctor examined the body that it turned out that Charlie Parkhurst was a woman. In fact, born Charlotte Parkhurst back in 1812 in New Hampshire, abandoned by her parents, stuck in an orphanage. She ran away, disguised as a boy. And she quickly saw that being a boy was a lot better than being a girl. That it gave you a lot more freedom. And she got work as a stable hand. She found a mentor, a guy named Ebenezer Balch. And it was Ebenezer who taught her how to handle horses. And so eventually, Charlie Parkhurst, a.k.a. Charlotte, still passing as a man because freedom, decided to, well, go west, young man. Go west. There are things happening. So Charlie, who then became famous for, of course, overland adventures, got west, not overland. She traveled by ship, first to Panama, and then went across, I guess, the isthmus, and then boarded another ship which took her to San Francisco. And she arrived there in about 1850. So 1850, I mean, she's not, if she was born in 1812, did I say? So she's like 38 or something. Passing as a man. She always wore gloves, and that was to hide, I guess, her feminine hands. But how she did the voice and I don't know. I mean, it's not as though other women didn't pull this off throughout history. And I guess part of it would be just that nobody could imagine that Charlie was a woman. That ain't no woman. That's a man. And she quickly became known in California for her extraordinary abilities with horses and getting more passengers and more gold safely over all of these important routes between those outposts and the cities. So the only feminine thing that people later, once they found out she'd been a woman all along, that they remembered she really loved children. But they couldn't think of another thing that that it was hard. Can you imagine? You spend your whole life, this storied person, and then you find out he was a she the whole time. And here's a funny thing on her gravestone. It says that Charlie Parkhurst was the first woman to vote in the United States. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but the voting rolls show that Charlie Parkhurst was a registered voter. So, yeah, Charlie voted. And then when stagecoaches sort of started going down because the railroads were faster and I guess safer, she opened up a saloon. She also worked as a lumberjack. And there you have it. I never heard of her. Charlie Parkhurst. And here's an editorial that was written at the time of her death when it was discovered that she was a she. The Providence Journal wrote, "It is beyond question that one of the soberest, pleasantest, most expert drivers in this state and one of the most celebrated of the world-famed California drivers was, in fact, a woman." Charlie Parkhurst. It would take, I mean, women, there are women who fought in the Civil War pretending to be men. There are women in other, there's whole Shakespearean plays about women passing as men. And then, of course, in Shakespearean times, men playing women on stage because it wasn't considered fit for a woman to be an actor. You can see why women would consider doing it. I'm living as a man, for God's sake. You can have a life. You can have choices. But you have to deny who you are. You have to live. I can't imagine. But I think it's fascinating. It really is. Fascinating. Oh, so one of the things that happened over the weekend when I peaked every once in a while, because I really, can't take much anymore. Was this judge in Texas throwing out the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. Remember when Republicans railed against activist judges? I think that judge in Texas is the very definition of an activist judge. But, man, this is why it is beyond terrifying that what the Republicans are doing and will do until the very moment we throw every last one of them out is they're trying to pack the federal courts with political, really right-wing judges. This judge was not a Trump judge. He was actually George W. Judge. But from what I've read, an awful lot of people who do know the law say that he must have been smoking something when he wrote this thing, because it ain't going to stand up. Probably. Unless, of course, it goes to, on appeal, another federal court of some sort, an appeals court that is packed with right-wing judges, and then finally makes its way to the Supreme Court, which we know is packed. So it's a little unsettling, to say the least. The ruling, if it stands, just so you understand, the ruling as it stands would not only do away with insurance coverage for millions of Americans, it would toss it out, put them back into totally not covered at all. It would also strike down the Obamacare's mandated coverage for what are considered essential services, and that is maternity care, newborn care, out, prescription drugs, mental health, substance abuse, out. Yeah, this judge said apparently giving people those things and not allowing insurance companies to discriminate against people who already have some pre-existing condition, that's gone too. Everything gone. Because, Republicans just think it's some kind of, I don't know, communist plot to give people health coverage. Incredible. Man, we got to destroy him. We have a caller. Hello, caller.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi. Got me in
Hello?
mid-swallow. Hi.
Oh.
Hi.
Hi. Hey, Trump, he brags about this economy and how wonderful it is. Before Thanksgiving, my wife got laid off, her and 15 other people. She got called on the phone. And I don't want to say it's funny. When you get laid off, I don't know, you probably haven't had this experience for a while, and I haven't either, but they give you half your pay through unemployment compensation. It's 50% of your pay. And then they send you a letter in the mail saying they can offer you COBRA, which is like, I don't know, what, $1,200 a month, maybe a little more than that, which is double what you paid when you were working for an employee. It just amazes me how they really give the worker the shaft. And then on top of that, to put salt into they want you to, yes, and they send you to a class up, she's there now, my wife, to CareerLink, which my wife's already pretty much got another job because she's gone to interviews and that, and we know some people and that, and that's what it is. But I think it's a poor person that doesn't know anybody to get anywhere. And then she has customer service. She's over 40 years experience of that. And so she's pretty lucky in that point. But it's just how they treat the person that gets laid, like you're a common criminal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've been there myself. I ended up once, finding out about all of that, COBRA, unemployment, having to go to this class. I remember I showed up, it was in the old Alcoa building downtown here, and sitting through this nonsense that had absolutely no application to my skills. I mean, my skill set is a bit absurd, right? Oh, what can you do? I can talk and annoy Republicans. So, I mean, it's just not, but still, I had to, they make you jump through all of these hoops. And just when they cut so you're getting half of your pay, but to get your medical insurance, you have to pay twice as much. Well, sorry, that don't compute.
Yeah. No, and then she'll be 62, so she's not old enough for Medicare, so they got you in that point there. So it's amazing how the whole thing works out, and yet they're Trump's saying he's the forgotten people that he's taking care of. And another thing, he's going to shut down government. So we're paying for a service. Maybe we ought to stop paying our taxes for the 3 weeks they shut down government, because we're paying for a service we're not getting. I mean, it could be the same thing, couldn't it? I mean, it just, I guess we're just going to have to vote him out. That's all we can do.
No, you got to vote every single one of them out.
Exactly. Because the Republicans do nothing for the American worker. They do nothing other than the rich. And I wish people would understand that. I don't know.
Yeah, well, don't hold your breath. I hope your wife finds employment soon.
And then last time I talked to you about, you said about I didn't like Obama. I like Obama. I just thought he had political capital that he wasted, and that's what was disappointing about him. And I don't consider him a war criminal. I was talking about Cheney and George W.
You didn't make
not
that clear.
Obama. No, I think he's an honorable man out of all of them. I thought Carter was an honorable man.
Yes.
I voted for him twice.
Yeah.
So that's what I meant by honor and all that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, then.
All righty.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Russ says, just got on the computer. What the hell is the... I didn't say what the hell. What is the... what is the reason for the... Ooh, Kurt's saying, in a bizarre twist, the callers today are at least twice your volume. Wow. Isn't that funny? Are you everybody else feeling the same way? Let me know. They've been messing with our computer here. Changed it out, and so I am expecting technical difficulties for a while. So if that's the case, so back to Russ said, just got on the computer. What is the reason for this being unconstitutional, according to this Texas judge? Well, I'll just read what it says here. He said that the mandate requiring people to buy health insurance is unconstitutional, and the rest of the law cannot stand without that. So he said, without the mandate, the rest of the law comes crashing down. Apparently, a whole bunch of other people say, what? They don't agree with it. But, I don't know. I don't even pretend to know. This must be known. It's not like that goes into effect. People who have the insurance will continue to have the insurance, but this has to be, it will be appealed immediately. My understanding is that House Democrats, as soon as they come in January and are in power, will almost immediately notify the White House that they intend to vote on a resolution to intervene in this case. And then they intend to convene hearings to spotlight the impact of this Texas judge's ruling. And they're just going to lay it out. Okay, here's what this judge did. And, I mean, literally, as many as 17 million Americans would lose their health care. I don't think that's going to play real well for the Republicans in 2020, do you? 17 million, it's an estimate, could lose their health care. Still others could see premiums skyrocket as price protections for pre-existing conditions collapse. I mean, they're not there anymore, and so, wow. The president, of course, upon hearing of this ruling, was ecstatic. Nothing like 17 million people losing their health insurance and others hanging on by, a thread with rising premiums, and folks with pre-existing conditions, again, wandering in the desert. The president tweeted, highly respected judge in Texas. Great news. Great news for America. Okay. Great news for Americans, on the other hand, not so much. And, of course, this puts the lie to what Republicans, just in the last election, were actually trying to, again, pose as people who supported health insurance and weren't going to take any health insurance away from folks, even though they have been voting since the ACA was passed to do just that. How many times? Does anyone have a count of how many times Republicans under Obama passed legislation to destroy Obamacare? So, I don't know. I don't think it'll stand. On the other hand, one never knows. And again, the troubling thing of these judges. And there's more coming every day. That's all Mitch McConnell and his Senate is doing. This totally unrepresentative body. God. What I forget, what was the percentage? The majority in the Senate, the Republicans, represent 18% of the population of the country, because they come from, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, blah, 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 Mississippi. 18%. Something's wrong with that, just saying. And another troubling thing I read over the weekend about these judges is that, just back to my home state of Wisconsin, where the outgoing governor, Scott Walker, decided to cement his legacy as about the biggest SOB in Wisconsin politics ever. He signed those measures passed by the Republican-controlled legislature, which hogties the new Democratic statewide office holders, the governor, the attorney general. He signed that, and now, of course, that's going to head to the courts. But here's the scary thing. Here's the headline I saw in the New York Times. Wisconsin power grab seems bound for court, long favorable to Republicans. When it is challenged, what they've done, it will go to a court that would be the state Supreme Court, which is packed with these Republicans. Now, they have one fewer than they did because there was a special election held in this year and a Democrat won. But Republicans still hold a majority, and that Supreme Court, that Wisconsin Supreme Court, has upheld every piece of dubious legislation passed by these Republicans under Scott Walker. The good news is there are two more Supreme Court seats in Wisconsin up for election in the next year and a half. And one of those is not held by a liberal. So if they take that seat, it could well be that Wisconsin's court can be turned. And in this regard, people say, these judges should not be elected. In this case, I am thrilled that they will be, because it looks like Wisconsin's electorate is starting to wake up to what they have lost. We have another caller. Hello, caller.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
It's Susie from Swiss Home Park.
Hi, Susie.
Who hasn't called you in a long time.
No.
No, I've been working temp jobs trying to keep my house. Isn't that nice?
No.
Because I've been looking for a job for 8 years now. Isn't that fine?
Oh.
And I haven't found enough freelance work to keep my business going. So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun out here. But anyways, I heard...
Yeah, but they say that it's full employment now, and so there's jobs out there. There aren't enough workers anymore. That's not what you're finding.
Bunch of bull. You know what that means. That means that a lot of people have fallen off the unemployment rolls. One of my very good friends, who is in the same type of field as I am, I just met 2 weeks ago doing a temp job too, because she got sick and ended up in the hospital just as I did. Lost a lot of clients because she couldn't service them, because she was a one-man band just like me. And now she's doing anything, drawing at straws to try to keep her house too. And she ended up using all of her savings to, she's still paying out the hospital, even with the health care that she had. I have been working temp jobs since February, and the only days that I had off were holidays. Of course, you're not on the air on holidays, so I didn't get to talk to you. But so I'd get like one. I think I've had maybe 5 days off since February, working 7 days a week, and frankly, I'm tired. And I ended up with 3 days in the hospital during that time because my system couldn't handle it, and I'm still paying doctor bills, even with being on what I call Trump care. It's not the ACA anymore. It's not Obamacare anymore. It's Trump care because he has continually screwed it up. He's done everything he can to screw it up. My premiums have gone up. My my co-pays are higher now, and I supposedly have the same plan as I had before. But I did hear on some news channel yesterday. I don't know if it was on a network news channel or on a 24-hour news channel, that the Congress tried 70 times to get rid of Obamacare, or try to get rid of the ACA.
I mean, they did it every 2 seconds. It seems that's all they did was vote on getting rid of Obamacare. Yeah, I'm hearing from others. The caller's volume is very loud. Okay. So I know you don't think you're screaming, but apparently it sounds like you are.
Oh, I'm not screaming at all. Now I'm whispering a little.
Can I ask how old you are?
I'm 61.
And
there are an awful lot of people in my age group who are in the same boat as me. I'm not ready to retire.
No. And I think that's a big part of the problem with people in their 50s and 60s. I think age discrimination is just rampant.
It is. It's horrible.
And you have no way of proving it.
I can tell you in the last 8 years I've had 4 interviews. And one of them was a computerized one that I had to speak to a computer while at home. And it didn't sync up correctly with my computer, so I had to do it on my telephone, which of course didn't make me look so great. And then I got a rejection. I actually got a rejection and heard from somebody. Oh my God!
Well, that's amazing, huh? Because usually they
I know.
You just never hear from them again, right? They
don't
have the courtesy of
telling
you.
They just ignore you.
Yeah, it's just vile.
But, 4 interviews in 8 years, that's ridiculous.
I'm really sorry.
I mean, I have 20 years of experience in television, and I've got 23 years in PR, marketing, news media relations, and social media. And people think, oh, well, you're this old. You can't possibly know anything about social media. Well, try me. Yeah. Plus, I have a master's degree in corporate communications that I just got in 2016. I mean, it's not like I'm willing to learn and change and grow. I'm no dummy.
No, I'm so sorry.
I was the person who did all that publicity on the Women's March last year.
I know.
And, well, I guess people knew about it.
It looks like they did. Looks like you got the word out there. Damn, Susie.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I don't know what to say except I wish you better luck in this new year. I don't know.
Yeah. I keep wishing, I keep hoping, I keep working. working towards working.
Yeah, you got no choice, huh?
But,
plowing ahead.
yeah, but temp jobs are
Crap.
whatever I can do,
Yeah.
and some of them are, horribly degrading, and some of them are with some of the looniest people I've ever met in my life. But I'll take whatever I can do to keep my house and keep my dog.
All I can say
You
is
know.
I don't know what to say. I mean, God, and it's not like it's just you.
And they're
This is.
It's
but the
not just
Republicans
me.
say, I mean, no, it's the greatest economy ever. I mean, never had such a great economy. Yeah, there you go.
There are more women, but there are an awful lot of men in it too.
Yeah.
An awful lot of men.
Yeah. Hang in there. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Hang
All
in
right.
there. Okay. Bye. My
Well,
best.
thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
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 Boy, oh boy. Barbara sent me a Rasmussen poll that shows that 47% of likely U.S. voters approve of President Trump's job performance. Here's what I want to say. Rasmussen, it's a joke. Rasmussen poll is a total joke. It is always an outlier. There's no other polls that show all the other polls have his approval down in the 30s. Rasmussen is a right-wing Republican pollster that I can't imagine. They probably just cook these figures up sitting in a room somewhere, and they've been proven wrong so often that I don't think any serious journalists even look at Rasmussen polling anymore. They're showing it. Just don't even think that's going to happen. What? Trump's reelection? Listen, I would never count him out because that's what we did 2 years ago, right? Never. And I don't care if you say, but look, they're closing in on him. He's going to be a jailbird. People won't even work for him anymore. He's blah, 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 blah. None of it matters. Democrats have to act like he is a shoo-in for re-election. That is the only way to deal with this. Although I think the next 2 years are they're either going to kill him or kill us. I don't know. I just don't know. Okay. Guys, with this volume thing, we'll do what we can. It might not be able to do it during the show, but I'm sort of not surprised. Anytime. And it's always Mondays, by the way. So I don't know what happens over the weekend. I think the people come in here and mess around with our levels and do stuff, and then we just don't even know what's happening. I think it was E.J. Dionne who wrote a piece today about the NRA and how it looks like it's sort of going down. And it's happening sort of, slowly and under the radar, but I've been noting it. And Dionne says, sometimes dramatic shifts in American politics go unnoticed. And sometimes it's just because they go against long-standing expectations and assumptions about, the NRA. I mean, they own our Congress. They own state legislatures. They are a terror to anybody running for office. Not so much anymore. And they still have a lot of power. There's no doubt about it, but nowhere near what they did. They are starting to go down. The fact that they're also being shown to be complicit in this Russian stuff is not going to help him. NRA spending on on the elections in the last midterm, just recently, was way, 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 way down. I mean, hugely down. The fact of the matter is it doesn't have the money it has had. So I think these kids, these Florida high school kids, I think along with the incredible work being done by Michael Bloomberg's organization and other anti-gun legislation, is starting to get a toehold. And that is good news. And now, when in the 2018 midterm elections, when people were asked what were the issues that drove them to the polls, interestingly enough, more Democrats mentioned guns than Republicans. So while Republicans used to swarm to the polls because of their fear that someone was going to take their guns from them, the fact is now guns are something that Democrats go to the polls to try to get some sanity injected into our repulsive acceptance of this murderous nightmare that the NRA and their backers have engendered. Just saying. So that's happening. Also, the Boy Scouts look like they're going down. So all these, they might be going down. They tried to take the Girl Scouts with them by, by raiding, all of a sudden deciding, oh, we'll take girls. We're not even called the Boy Scouts anymore. We're just called the Scouts. So we'll take girls. Oh, yeah, we'll take transgender girls, transgender boys. We'll take gays. We'll take anybody now. Because it appears that America has moved on without us. But the Boy Scouts got screwed in that when they tried to staunch the loss of little Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, by finally dropping their refusal to allow gays. And that happened, just maybe about 3 or 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago? I don't know. But guess what? It blew up in their faces because turns out that a huge percentage of the people that were staying with the Boy Scouts were staying there because they were homophobes. So as soon as the Boy Scouts said, okay, we'll accept gays, then the Mormon Church, which is a big, big part of the Boy Scouts population, said, well, we're out of here then. And so the Scouts, the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts sued them, I think, because they started, really just trying to raid Girl Scouting, which apparently is doing better. The Boy Scouts are looking at potentially filing for bankruptcy. So that's all I'm saying. Do you know there are 17 separate investigations going on now of Trump-related, that are Trump-related? I'm talking about criminal investigations. 17 separate criminal investigations. Some about the spending of his inaugural committee, some looking into his foundation. A lot of these happening in New York State where he's got no pardon power, no anything. And where, if this guy doesn't go to jail, if he, after he leaves the White House, I can't imagine how that's going to happen. How he avoids jail. They're looking into Trump business dealings. I was reading a piece written by a former prosecutor with the New York U.S. Attorney's Office who said that, he had dealt with a lot of mafia cases, a lot of, criminal syndicate cases. And he said I don't see a lot of difference between this supposed Trump business and those criminal organizations. So I don't see how he survives. I mean, he's right now being protected by the fact that he's the president. So it'll be interesting to see. We're heading into a fractious. It'll make this last year look like a Tea Party, I have a feeling, because now the Democrats have some political power back. Oh, dear. Batten down the hatches. That's all I have to say. Hey, I came upon this little snippet, and I want to share it with you. I don't know if at the Pittsburgh Public Theater, I know they were heading into this one-man show where a guy does Irving Berlin. I don't know if that's still there, but this is about Irving Berlin and one particular song. This would be in, actually, this is a piece that was written after the Tree of Life massacre, and talking about the history of anti-Semitism in the United States. And it's just an interesting little historical picture. If we drop back to the fall of 1938, which is when Adolf Hitler and the Nazis were doing their thing. And then Kristallnacht resulted in the destruction of Jewish businesses all over Germany and the deaths of many, and the first people rounded up and put in camps. And at that time, and I grew up with my dad telling me this history because he was very much alive, living it as a young teenage boy. And he talked about how his family would listen, I forget what night of the week it was, to this incredibly popular radio show that came out of Detroit. And it was a Catholic priest, Father Coughlin, I think is how it was pronounced. And he was it was like Adolf Hitler. It was just blatant, out there Jew baiting and Jew hate. And my dad would listen to this, I can't imagine, with his family, his frightened family, wondering if, oh my God, here we go again. And that this was one of the most popular shows. I never learned that from anywhere else in my schooling, that there was such a person. And a highly regarded Catholic prelate at that, with such power, with his own show. But this was those days. And so they're killing Jews over in Germany, and they're railing against Jews in the United States. And one day after Kristallnacht, November 10th, 1938, it was the eve of Armistice Day. Another broadcast star of that time, radio, because there wasn't any TV yet, was Kate Smith. Many of you might remember her, the big old Kate Smith. She was a singer. She was called the Songbird of the South. And she had a weekly show on CBS. And she said this the day after Kristallnacht. It didn't have anything to do with Kristallnacht, I assure you. And now it is going to be my very great privilege to sing for you a song that has never been sung before. Never been sung before by anybody. And it's something more than a song. I feel it is one of the most beautiful compositions ever written. A song that will never die. The author is Mr. Irving Berlin. The title is God Bless America. And Kate belted out for the first time that song, God Bless America. And America went nuts. People said, this is so incredible. People began, the sheet music began singing this everywhere. A movement started to replace the Star-Spangled Banner with God Bless America. And that didn't go over well. The Father Coughlins, the Charles Lindberghs, the Henry Fords, the big Jew haters of the time, the America First crowd went crazy and said that this Jew, Irving Berlin, was making money, profiting from trying to take down the Star-Spangled Banner. Jewish conspiracy theories went flying hither and yon. By the way, Irving Berlin did not make a penny off of God Bless America. He donated every single penny of royalties from that song to, get this, the Boy Scouts. Oh, excuse me, and the Girl Scouts. Good for you, Irving! The Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts. The head of the Protestant War Veterans of the United States wrote a letter to the Girl Scouts accusing Irving Berlin of, quote, paying your organization to put over a Jew national anthem, is what it said. You know, this was a time in America where pro-German and anti-Semitic gatherings could pack 20,000 people into Madison Square Garden. Same time. 20,000 people, Madison Square Garden. Didn't Donald Trump's own daddy show up at one of these big right-wing things, KKK march? I mean, this was all out there in the streets. A rally at Madison Square Garden with 20,000 people. And in between singing the Star-Spangled Banner and the Stars and Stripes Forever, the head of the German-American Bund blamed Jews for getting America into World War I. And he went on to say, if Franklin D. Rosenfeld, that's what they called FDR, they Jewified his name. And now we live in a time in which we have a president who blames George Soros, a Jewish financier, for helping to bring immigrant hordes to invade our country. Just saying. So that song, and Kate Smith was right. It stood the test of time. I still think it's a better national anthem than. And Irving Berlin, who was a naturalized American, as proud an American as there ever was, who wanted so appreciated the life he had here, the chance he had. He was born in Siberia. Okay. In 1888. And when he was just about 6, he came with his parents, none of them speaking any English. Didn't he also write White Christmas? One of Oh dear. Those who do not know history are definitely condemned to repeat it. All righty, guys, that be it for me. I just noticed, my God, it's 11 o'clock and then some. So I'm out of here. Susan should be joining us tomorrow, and I hope I see you then. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.